Hello and welcome. This is Pepin from Pepin Reacts. And here we have today my best friend. His name is Meader. How are you doing, Meader?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am doing excellent. I'm surprised you didn't say your catchphrase, but I guess that is the ultimate troll is not saying it. So thank you.
If you say it every time, it's no good. You gotta have one time where you don't say it.
Okay. This marks the anniversary of the show. It's been about 6 months, so it's really great for this anniversary to take place. How are we going to celebrate?
I think we should watch an episode of Breaking Bad. Celebrate.
Yeah. Okay. See, that's like kind of like a great outlook on life because oftentimes the best way to celebrate something is the thing itself.
It's true.
Like if you're dieting, the best way to treat yourself for dieting is when not eating food, right?
It's to die. Oh,
Oh,
is that not what a diet is?
correct. That's not what a diet is. So, if you want to see more videos like this, I don't really sure what you should do. Figure it out. And we'll get into it here. So this may be a timer-based reaction or it may be a reaction-based reaction. So, hey, just check out the doobly-doo for more instructions on how to handle this. All right, that was episode 500 of Breaking Bad. This episode, you met a very important character. We met the guy that took the fall. Good on you. He saved Badger from that terrible, terrible fate of informing on Heisenberg, because that's the worst fate of all. I mean, if that main character gets inconvenienced and put to jail, the show's over. So that is just fantastic. Great on you, Badger, though there's probably more direct ways of kind of dealing with it. But overall, I think this episode was really strong. It introduced us to a new character, Saul Goodman, who I can't say I quite understand him quite yet. I get his gist there, but I'm trying to understand his emotional backbone, but I'm sure that will be explored as the show goes on. I know that Saul actually has his own spin-off show called Better Call Saul. So I know that he's a well-loved character because, it just seems likely. But I'm kind of wondering where he's going to take this. And things happen different to how I predicted. But that's kind of my general thoughts on the episode. What are your general thoughts, Meter?
Loved it. Great episode. Love seeing your reaction on a lot of the things that happen. It's fun for me to be a part of the reaction series and also get to half the time those who are watching will see that I'm turning over here when things happen or shooting my eyes over because this is where you live when we're watching the episode on this screen. So I'm constantly looking over and being like, what's Pepin's reaction to this? Everyone wants to know, well, how does Pepin react?
Yeah. So let's start off the episode here. So let's go with the Badger plot here, because the Badger plot's probably the easiest to take care of. So we have the cold open, and he is approached by this guy, and he knows this guy's a cop, essentially. And then he sells him drugs anyway. I feel like maybe what it was is he shit tested the guy enough to trust him.
Yeah, pretty much.
But what really sold him is the Constitution. Like if you ask somebody to be a cop, they ain't gonna be a cop, right? And he's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. He just rolls with it.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that people said for a long, long time. That you gotta believe came from a cop to begin with, right?
Yeah. I wonder if that's propaganda they put out there just to trick people.
It had to be. It has to be, right?
Yeah. But so I think that whole scene was great in illustrating the two aspects of Badger. Number one is he's a complete idiot. Like he's this very, very, I don't know, not very smart. But also number two, that he does have a good sense of things. Like he identified every single reason why that guy was an informant, right? So it's not that he doesn't have some sort of capacity. He just he just kind of fucks around too much. It's like, whatever. I roughed you up a little bit. Here's some meth.
Pretty much, yeah. Anyone who's buying meth and says, you've turned me off to the idea of meth, is probably not there to buy meth.
I gotta say, the cop there, like, it's weird how much of a difference, like, just having a suit and everything, suit and badge, versus just, like, his other clothes. Because I could be bought he looked like a junkie, when he was there, but, when he's in the officer uniform, like, oh, that makes sense, he's an officer. It's just weird how clothes can make the person sometimes.
It very much does. And I mean, the badge really is the thing there. Because, like, if you just saw him walking down the street in a suit, you wouldn't be like, oh, that's a cop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the badge, I mean.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think looking back on it, like, I think the cop did a good job portraying himself as, like, being legit. I think with the maybe one line you said is like, I think I'm just gonna quit. This isn't enough. Like, that does seem kind of like strange.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not something a junkie would say. Like, it's something someone would say if it was their first time, but that's not something someone would say if it was their first time trying to, like, do it.
Yeah.
So, just very odd. But we saw, I guess it's a little bit of foreshadowing there. I mean, two different levels. We saw, like, the bench, and it said Better Call Saul. So, number one, kind of foreshadowing calling Saul and him coming into the picture. But also, number two, foreshadowing that Saul had Badger's back in a weird way. Maybe looking too much touched into it, but I think there was a metaphor there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this whole episode was about Saul.
Mm-hmm.
Realistic.
So Saul comes in and he's defending Badger, and his whole thing was money. Like, number one, he came in there and he completely controlled the situation. Like, he talked down to both Badger and this agent. Like he just started rattling stuff off so quick, and it was so hard for them to really process and kind of comprehend. They had nothing to say. And I think it was very, very effective because it shamed Badger so fucking bad that he just, like, he's now just gonna keep his mouth shut because, I guess I am. I need to let this guy take control. That's
he did a great job of controlling the situation for sure.
Yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later because it was really incredible how he controlled the situation with Walt and Jesse later in the episode where he was held captive. But it was really kind of interesting, and it kind of made me feel like this undercover cop was, like, I kind of felt like he was maybe competent to begin with, maybe a little bit of a hint that maybe it's not as competent, but then he gets like trounced on right there, like just diminished. And then later in the episode, he's feeling like super happy and like, oh yeah, we got him. This is a great drug bust. And it's just like, oh, he's just an overconfident, like, kid here. Like, maybe part of that is kind of like how Saul framed him. And I don't know.
He seemed easy to trick, whereas Hank didn't seem as easy.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Because Hank had suspicion there. Also, so Saul is walking through the office. He sees Hank there, and then they have a little back and forth. Saul's trying to get information, just very blunt about it. Like he is like an upfront salesman. Like, he'll tell you like all of the little details there, and he just came off with like such a good quip. Like, Hank didn't even try. He's just like,
yeah, Hank Tank.
Like 100%.
Like, effortlessly.
I guess part of it is Hank is, I'm not going to say that Hank likes competence, but Hank knows when he's beaten. Or if you kind of outwit Hank, he'll be like, hey, like, hold off there. Like, he'll kind of like give the person some sort of credit in his own way, right? He knew he couldn't one up that, like, in any sort of way. I mean, maybe he could if he had enough time, but he did not have enough time to react to that. He's just like, ah, shit.
Yeah, it definitely shut him up immediately when Saul shot back at him, and that kind of ended the entire dialogue.
Mm-hmm. And so Badger doesn't want to be an informant, but he also doesn't want to go to prison. But what was Badger's whole outlook on that? Is it that he wanted to be? What did he want to do? What did he think was best for himself?
I don't think he was really a part of any of the decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Other people were making the decisions for him. I think that was kind of the whole point here.
I see. Yeah. I guess it's true because they never really consulted Badger. Because we have Heisenberg, who Heisenberg's trying to find a situation that will benefit himself. Though I'll come to a point where I'm unclear on some of the aspects of that. Jesse is trying to protect his relationship with a friend, and then Saul is just trying to do the. I think Saul's whole impetus is I'm gonna do what this job is worth. Like the amount of money I'm being paid, I will put that much effort into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's clear he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, because he got offered 10,000, and then I guess he got offended by that. But then he got offered enough. But then again, it was at gunpoint, and then he just kind of went for it.
Yeah.
So ends up Badger does get off, it seems, and he was an informant, but it was like a false flag sort of thing. Overall, I gave Badger a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Room to grow.
I don't think he did a bad job, but he doesn't do a great job at his North going.
Hey, yeah. Plenty of opportunity there in those 3 points that he's missing.
I don't think he is. He's a character. I think my opinion of him has raised from my initial meeting of him, but not by much.
Yeah. There.
But where do you think would be best to tackle next?
Have we even tackled anything yet?
I think so, right? We talked about Badger.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, probably the greatest character of all time, next to Mason. Mark?
Probably.
I don't know. What was his name?
That's him.
Yeah, Mark. So
Is that the baby?
Mark, the baby. So I guess we get a little bit hampered here. So actually, let's go on to Jesse and his girlfriend, who might be his girlfriend. I don't know. So it seems like they fucked. I get that strong impression somehow.
Yeah, I think that was implied. Yeah.
Yeah, and she is a recovering addict, she said.
Yeah.
And Jesse's just trying to play off that. I don't know. Jesse just kind of go with the flow. Like anything that someone says, he just kind of like, I don't know. He's able just to like go in any direction.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think he just wants to, he wants some more from Jane. Like he likes what they have there. So I think he likes her and is kind of willing to shift his own habits based on her needs, or at least how he perceives them.
Yeah, I wonder what she was using for drugs in the past, because we know at least weed, right? And she's talking about it being a stepping stone. I know some people will talk about how like marijuana is not a gateway drug and stuff like that, and I do think that's valid for the most part. But I do think there are some people who maybe they use harder drugs and they can get escalated by getting back into that scene like at all. Like either it's complete abstinence from it, or if they start with weed, then they'll want something a bit more, and they kind of just climb that like ladder of drug use. So I think she might be one of those types. But my question is, what drugs was she using prior? Was it meth? Was it cocaine? Maybe it was I don't know. I could see her being a partier. Maybe it's Molly.
Could be alcohol.
Oh, that's true. That's true. And of course, just to throw the other possibilities. Some people, they get calmed out by weed, or different drugs. Like some people smoke weed so they don't do meth or something like that. I don't know. I'm sure it's a thing. I've heard it once. So that's another thing. But so
Yeah.
J- Jesse gets to bed eventually, and then they don't even unwrap it. They just kind of do it right there on the plastic wrap.
Yeah.
To me, that just seems wrong
Why?
because like it's on plastic. Like I've never like had sex on plastic, and it just doesn't seem right.
Well, you should try it sometime.
You think I should?
Yeah.
I guess I get it because they're just like so eager to do it, and
Yeah.
this point's being way too belabored right here. But it just seemed like an atrocity.
I don't know. I think it just was exemplary of them wanting to get back into being together.
Mm-hmm.
That's the entire point there. It'll be interesting to see what, you know, as Jesse's social life progresses, how that all plays out. Especially with her being recovering from something and him being one of the major drug dealers in the state.
Mm-hmm. I kind of am trying to ascertain what their chemistry is exactly. I feel like for Jane, she's attracted to Jesse because Jesse has ambition, but I feel like Jesse might be attracted to her because she's laid back and cool. Maybe there's something more there, but
I mean, they have connected multiple times on different things. Drawing was one of them.
that's right. That's right.
Disappointment of their parents being another one. Now drug use is on that list. So I think they're very similar in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. I think they have a very compatible sense of humor too. Because, well, I don't know. Jane started a flat screen TV and they just kind of looked at it. And Jesse's playing it off, but Jane kind of sees the humor and all of that and just kind of make into a bit of a joke.
Yeah.
So there was that whole plot line. So it seems like they're escalating their relationship.
Talk to me about Hank.
Hank. So Hank is barely holding his shit together.
Mm-hmm.
And so Marie was worried about him, which is kind of strange. Like she didn't quite even know how to handle him, which like I don't know what that indicates about Marie, but it seemed kind of I don't know. She just didn't know what to do. I guess if you have somebody who is just so strong-willed like that, to see him in that state, you're kind of just like at a loss because you're not used to dealing with that.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think she also confronts problems head on, and he was doing what she does and just denying there was a problem at all. And she doesn't like that's her best defense. So she doesn't know how to get around it because she's like, there's no way to get around that.
yeah. So she's like dealing with a reflection a little bit.
I know, yeah.
So she tried to get Skylar. I don't know how much Skylar would be helpful in that situation. Because
Well, she's reaching out for her sister.
yeah, okay, maybe for emotional support for herself.
That, and I mean, who got around Marie's stubbornness and denial?
Okay.
Skylar. Skylar broke her down, so.
That's true. Okay, these are good points. So Walt decides to go there. And the conversation they had together was very like I don't know how to read it. This is like it feels like something that's very hard to perceive. Like there's a lot of subtext and everything. Like some of the basis of it was Walt was talking to himself in a way, right? And the other aspect was I don't know because it is much like the motivational speech he gave to Jesse in a way, but it felt more real to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Hank expected that from Walt either. And it's almost like Hank got called out by Walt, and then Hank's like, "Oh shit, I do gotta like be a honey badger here."
Yeah, I mean, I think he told him what he needed to hear. He knew what Hank needed to hear, and he was able to supply that. But I think the reasonings there are what's more interesting than the actual action itself. Like, why would he do that? Why does he want Hank back working in the DEA, literally hunting him?
So I thought it was that he wanted Hank back away in wherever he was, because what made me think that is you are making the argument that now that Hank's gone from that location, wherever they are, Walt has been able to gain massive success like super quick through the drug trade. And so he might have associated Hank with, the lack of Hank would be with success, because it's a huge big hurdle to overcome. And if Hank comes back here permanently, now Walt's actions are going to be very limited, and he's kind of going to be a huge obstacle. So his motivation is to get Hank the fuck out of there.
Is it though?
I think so.
Was he there as Heisenberg, or was he there as Walt supporting his family? Because we know that the impetus for all of this, at least initially, was family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's an undertone in pretty much everything that happens is relationships and family. So I feel like Walt was there, at least in part, to support his family in a time when his family needed him.
Mm-hmm.
He picked up the phone when he heard that Hank wasn't okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think also, in a way, I think that conversation kind of, specifically when Hank said, "We don't have any overlap," like that level of somebody being that much in denial that Walt could ever do anything even close to similar to where Hank's at. Heisenberg could see that as a benefit. If the person chasing me will never look at me that way, that's the guy I want back trying to find me, because he's never going to look at me. He'll look through me to somebody else. So it's possible that that was in there as well.
A little bit of mixture between the two. I think we foreshadowed something here, which is that Hank is going to gain control and meaning through tackling the problems and kind of like sterning himself. So I think I said this at one point during the reaction. Some of the stories about Walt taking off the layers and becoming his Heisenberg, like him undressing or becoming his true self. Whereas I think Hank is more going to be putting on the impetus of responsibility or whatever, some sort of meaning, and kind of going after that. In some way, it's Walt becoming who he really is, and then Hank becoming someone he wants to be. And so what gave Walt pleasure or meaning is, like, he was talking about dealing with all the problems he had dealt with in the past and how he just felt miserable because of fear. And then ever since he got the diagnosis, he hasn't felt that. And my hypothesis has been that's the reason is because he's now got the control. He can control the situation. He controls his outlook. It controls very little violence here. Hank right now is in a similar spot where he has a loss of control. He just doesn't feel like he's in any control of his life or these situations or anything like that. And so I think Walt's advice to him is to kind of do the Heisenberg, or maybe not quite like that, but, grab control of the situation and go out there and get your retribution, or do what you need to do. Like, just kind of like be a tank. And I think that's the advice that got Walt through it. And I feel like that's foreshadowing that that's the route Hank's going to go. We're going to see Hank kind of go from, honestly, a little bit of a coward in some way to someone who's extremely strong and just resilient. I mean, not saying he wasn't to some degree before, but I think he was Fox resilient, like kind of a bit fake, more portrayal. I think we're going to actually see Hank just get hardened.
So tell me about Saul.
Saul is a little bit hard to pin down right yet. I think his number one concern is money. That's definitely true. He seems to have connections with the cartel or some drug gang, it seems. Because the first thing when he got kidnapped by them was that, was it blah, blah, blah? Was it blah, blah, blah? And he started speaking a little bit of Spanish there. And it seems like he has some sort of other connection there that he is concerned about. Maybe it's just another client of his, but I think he has a connection with that. Saul is very, very intriguing in that he is just a salesman to the heart. He's a bit of a pig. He's very, very blunt and just makes off-color jokes all the time. He's almost like Hank in a way. But he's able to talk himself out of like any situation at this point. Like, when he got taken captive there, he did fear for his life. We started a bit of emotion there. Like, it felt real. Like, he was really fearing for his life with the whole grave and everything. But then it became very obvious that like he saw an in, and he just took control of the situation. Somehow he turned that to his benefit, as shown by the next scene, where now they're paying Saul $80,000, and I guess the pound of meth, but the pound of meth was to do the plant on the other guy. But somehow he just turned that whole situation to his benefit, which like that you need like a charisma level of like 500 to do that. Like I don't know. He has a career of getting criminals off, and he's a salesman. His name is out there. Like, he's very, very popular. I guess he has a reputation of being somewhat criminally linked, as Jesse said. How much of that is what he's done exactly is a little bit unclear, and I don't know if you want to play out that for a second.
I mean, he's got his brand out there, and his brand is known. And Jesse said, when you're in shit like this, you don't want a criminal lawyer. You want a criminal lawyer, a lawyer who is a criminal.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of at least the brand that he has.
I don't know if Saul is a sociopath or what he is exactly, because and it makes me a little bit scared here myself, because there is that scene where he gets held hostage, and then like he's kind of asking them like what their motive is. He thinks that they're like these other people, but he finds out they're not. And he's like, "Oh, the bald man was you? How was I supposed to know?" Like that's kind of a bad, sort of weird way. And then he kind of keeps talking to him. Was like, wait. So you're trying to pay me to get him off? Like, why not just kill him? Like, that makes far more sense. Like, you guys are being really confusing here. Like, this is the obvious solution. And honestly, that's what I thought Walt was going to do. I thought that was Walt's plan, potentially, was to, I mean, ideally get Badger off, right? But if not that if they could get him as an informant, then he'd just have to kill him. Or I think Walt's plan was to get him in jail. Okay, clarify me on that whole thing, because I'm a little confused with all the plans here.
I don't know what Walt's thinking was. I don't think that was ever explained. I think this is Jesse's employee and I don't think either of them want people to die. So I think that they were like killing somebody wasn't a solution to them.
Okay.
I don't think that was ever on the table.
So maybe it's that Walt had a lot of respect for Jesse and Jesse's opinions and his friend here.
Well, who has Walt ever killed? Like, who have they ever killed? There was one guy. It was Domingo. And then the other guy by the gas, but that was kind of in self-defense. But the only person that they've ever killed outright is Domingo, as far as I remember. And feel free to correct me if I'm wrong there. Maybe Tuco would have bled out, but that was Jesse, and that was again self-defense. This is self-defense, but from getting caught way, not in a literally life or death, fight or flight situation.
Yeah, maybe I'm assuming too much. Well, maybe I'm associating Walt's impetus of violence or his show more with any actual real action. So, because you're right about that. Like when I mistook maybe when Walt said, "No, we'll handle it," and then kind of gave Jesse the gun. That was Walt's saying, "Hey, if you got to kill people, you got to kill people." And
maybe it was. Maybe that was, in the heat of that moment, that's what he was feeling. But I think that when anytime that he gives thought, like he ended up reversing on that, right?
Mhm.
And then when he finds out, when Jesse tells him that he actually killed him, at first, Walt's like, that's not what I wanted. I never wanted that. Like, even though it was heavily implied,
Yeah. Hmm.
he was like, no, I just wanted you to shake him down, like scare him. I
Yeah.
don't think Walter wants anybody to die. I think maybe that's something that Heisenberg doesn't give a shit about.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's my thinking where he's at.
Yeah. I guess that is a good point there because there's the blurring of the lines, right, between the two kind of aspects. Because I kind of saw that as like Walt going back on his thought just because he was worried about Jesse getting hurt, but also it's probably just a bit of both because Walt doesn't want to see people die. You know, he doesn't want that to happen for no reason. All right. So yeah. So okay, Walt was being more. I guess he was having his conscience there, which is the only reason why he would fork over that money. Because if Heisenberg had anything to do with that, like I don't think Heisenberg would fork over that money for just for Badger, a person he never really met even. Seems.
I think they're kind of out of their depths in this situation because the DEA is involved.
Uh-huh.
So I think that they're kind of. I think that's why Saul was able to like take control of the situation so fast, was because this is nothing new to Saul, but it is to them. So he's in control because of that.
I see.
And then on top of that, the ending where Saul finds Walter very easily.
Yeah.
I think that is the implications that have, I think, is going to be very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's the lens through which Saul was able to get an in with him because he saw like this weird fault in their thinking. Like what you're doing makes no sense if you're like a real drug lord or, you know, a real like crime boss here. So I know my line of attack now and I can completely control this right here, which he did. So
Yeah.
I guess in a way his morality was a weakness. Him as in Walt.
And that's pretty much what Walt said, what Saul said, right?
Yeah.
Morality is expensive.
Mm-hmm. And again, my thought was Saul's thought, like, oh, okay, so you're in this bad situation. It's I think the best shot would have been to put him into prison. That would have been the best thing to do from their point of view. And I thought that's what was trying to pursue, but it seems like it's not. And so, rather, if he was going to be informant, now that threatens Walt and Heisenberg and the whole deal. So he came up with a great way to kind of avoid all that fruition.
I think Walt was fine with him going to prison.
You think he was?
The reason that they faulted on that is because Saul said, how long is he going to last in prison before he rolls on you? Eventually, he's going to roll because the police are going to continue to put pressure on him. So it's not an if, it's a when. And that's when Walt's like, okay, that's no longer an option.
Okay, so I think that's completing the picture then. So Walt didn't want to kill him or didn't want to be killed, but also, so he was okay with him going to prison, Badger, but
yeah,
that was still a giant risk to them or to him.
Yeah,
and his interests just happened to coincide with Jesse's interests of taking care of his friend, and also the Saul's suggestion of why not to kill him when he's out of prison, like that didn't seem good to Walt.
I mean, Walt considered it for a second. He did. They cut to his face where he was like, and then Jesse was like, no. And then Walt like let that be the no. But I think if Jesse wasn't there, it might have been a different story. So maybe Jesse still has some morality that Walt is willing to let go of.
It's something strange that Saul was able to take control of that situation, number one. Number two, divorce his feelings from being taken captive and held hostage and, you know, almost sentenced to death. And I guess number three, that now he's like, oh, hey, this is a great business opportunity. like it takes a special kind of person to kind of like turn like a grave into an opportunity.
Yeah.
It's really, really, really intriguing. Now, I almost wonder if this is going to be like, so the way they set it up here is Saul is going to be the person thinking about like their safety and their legal stuff and how to hide the money and how to do this, because he just knows that they don't have any of that shit figured out. As evidence, like where you had the money under a pillow, this, like he's gonna tell him like how to do this, like how to do it properly. But I wonder if Saul is going to be a collaborator or if he's gonna be like a string puller, like or if he's gonna try to like take control over that organization's. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yep. He said he wants to be a silent partner.
Mm-hmm. And we got to assume
cut. He sees the business opportunity here. He sees how big this could be.
I wonder where he plays in with some of the other gangs and everything, because I would assume he has some sort of interplay there, as evidenced by him, you know, like apologizing or doing the whole thing when he was being threatened. But I wonder what that kind of interplay there is, and I wonder if he might use that as a front to kind of fight back against them. Like maybe he has a whole
one way to
extra purpose there.
Only one way to find out.
It'll be interesting to see Saul kind of this. He's definitely entertaining, and let's just talk a little bit about the scene where Badger got off. A bit silly there.
Yep. A little bit of slapstick.
Yeah. It's like when I was watching the first season of the show, it was very much like oh, this could have long-reaching consequences. Oh, how are they going to figure this out? Like anything could like, and then sometimes they have scenes like this where it's like, okay, things are things are a little bit loosey-goosey here. Which not saying it's bad, but you just have to. As long as there's a clear delineation between like those parts and whether to take them seriously, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, Walt literally put himself directly in Hank's face to get himself off of being in Hank's face, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And talk about hiding in plain sight.
Mm-hmm. And okay, so I don't have an issue with that plot mechanism so long as it doesn't come back to bite Walt at some point, because there's two cop cars there, right? And they're like, oh, well, we saw in this other cop car that this is actually what happened. Jesse went here and blah blah blah. Like then it's kind of like you have to take those like silly moments very seriously and like overanalyze them. Whereas if it's just silly, that's great. I'm okay with it. But definitely a bit of slapstick there. And Badger's just kind of like, you Heisenberg Calvin doesn't know who Heisenberg is, or it's just Heisenberg. And it sounds like that guy got a cut of it. So the guy that was going under got a cut of that money, and that's how he's been making a profit. Then somebody gets out of jail. But all right.
Yeah.
Hey, are there any other plot points you could think to discuss?
No.
All right. So this was another great, fantastic episode of a show that we like to call Breaking Bad. Now, this reaction to Breaking Bad has been sponsored by people like you. So if you want to be one of those people, what you should do is like the like button. What's the thing after that? Subscribing?
They want.
Okay. If you want, you don't have to. Okay. Really, just be who you want to be. I mean, I'm going to get a little bit motivational here. There was once a man named Sally. Sally had no friends, and Sally died alone. Do you want to be Sally? No. Fuck Sally. Be yourself. Be you, not Sally. That's all I have to say. This was a great reaction. You guys have a great day. I react, you react. Pepin reacts. Choo, choo, choo.